KISLEV. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and Shadows of Change 2.0 is coming out very soon in patch 4.2. With that there is a bunch of additions like those for the Nation of KISLEV, a faction which, let's be honest, has not been doing so well. So this adds in a bunch of new units, mount options, and hell, even a really big dragon. So let's talk about all the additions coming into Shadows of Change in patch 4.2 and see if it's now worth it for you if you're a big KISLEV fan. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the brand new generic Lord option known as the Druzina. So this is a hybrid character which has a bow and also has access to a great weapon. The character itself is also focused around pretty much range combat. You can buff up your troops with a very large missile resistant bonus and armor, but also shoot out very similar to that of a Huntsman General for the Empire, and replenish ammunition for your armies. As KISLEV is very heavily focused on being a hybrid faction, this is going to be quite beneficial to you. The Druzina is drastically different to all other current Lord options, which is going to be quite nice, and it's available to all KISLEVite factions from the start of your campaign, which means, yes, no magic school or anything, just recruit a Lord as per normal and go in there. Which is quite good, especially if you like having some range-focused armies, and not only that, if you like to have skirmish-focused armies, because you can live your Ongol dreams even though Games Workshop are trying to do away with them. Skill-wise, they're pretty good. You can actually get some pretty good bonuses there to be able to get you some more experience when fighting against the Forces of Chaos, for example. You've also got some extra passive ability regeneration for Hag Witches, so if you want to use Hag Witches, mixing them up with the Druzina is actually very beneficial to you. It's going to work very similar to that of a Huntsman General, so it's pretty understandable on how it works. They only have access to horses, which kind of makes sense, obviously, as Druzina is going to be more of a skirmish-focused character, so bears don't really make sense there. You can reduce the upkeep to certain units, more range units than anything. Overall, I'm liking this more than the Boyar. Honestly, from what I've been able to play, it's a much better Lord option. The only thing I'm not too keen on is the fact that Servant of the Tsar, Veneration of the Bear, or Speaks to the Forest is one of those things where you pick one and the others get locked. I mean, it's great because that means that you can have different types of Druzina out and running, but the option skills stuff has always been a bit of a bugbear for me. Maybe that's just me. Now, one of the most exciting things about this, at least to me, is that we have a new Law of Magic. We've got the Law of the Hag. So this is something that is exclusive to KISLEV and only to Hag Witch heroes and Mother Ostankia herself. We're going to have a full video dedicated on this Law of Magic coming out a little bit later, for those who just want a simple guide, essentially. But essentially it is focused around buffing and also negative effects. You get the negative first, and if you overcast, you can go into buffing. I'm a big fan. I'm super happy that we're finally getting the representation of this Law of Magic, because it's something that a lot of people were asking for since before Shadows of Change was even a thing. It's very special to finally see these unique laws coming into effect, even if it's only for one race. As per usual, you'll be able to unlock the Law of Magic by recruiting a Hag Witch, the same building as all the other Hag Witches, so those all still exist too. You can take full advantage of that. And yeah, I mean, you got really cool looking animations with it. It's probably one of the best visually, I think, at least to me. KISLEV has been one of those factions that I was always really hyped about, especially since it's a collaboration with Games Workshop. It's a faction that never really had a full army on the tabletop, so finally seeing it realized here is super cool. Next, we have access to a completely new legendary hero. This is the Golden Knight, a melee-focused character which is going to do a lot of damage, very good at taking out characters, like really, really good, and also with pretty good splash attacks, and just in general, she's going to be a melee powerhouse, which KISLEV has needed for quite some time. You'll be able to recruit her as from rank 12, doing a series of quests which is pretty much just killing 1,500 troops, and then also just building up a royal barracks. It doesn't take that long to actually get her. I got her by around turn 16, but you could possibly even get her sooner if you know what you're doing. The character buffs up your armies quite well, focusing very heavily on Ice Guard and Zarguard, and in general, she's going to be what you need if you're playing in harder difficulties. Alright, this next one is a generic troop, the KISLEVite Warrior, a standard halberd infantry, no, bow weapons or anything, it's not a hybrid unit, and you might be surprised to hear that it's actually probably going to last you throughout your whole game. You see their armor piercing, their anti-large, charge defense against all. These troopers aren't too bad and actually do have some better stats than generic Corsairs. They're cheap, a little bit more expensive than the generic Corsairs in terms of upkeep, but very valuable. Getting you some armor-piercing anti-large cheap chaff is going to be quite good for you, especially if you're running multiple armies. At the end of the day, I was pleasantly surprised when I was playing with this troop. Mother Ostankia also starts off with a few of them at the start of her campaign, making her battles against the Dark Elves a little bit better, and yep, these can be recruited as soon as you take over a settlement. They're very, very basic frontline, much better. A lot of people were thinking, even myself, that they were going to be like the KISLEV versions of the Skaven slaves. No, these are so much better. Genuinely very surprised, very happy about that too. And the last new unit is that of the Frost Wyrm. This is a big beastie, a new creature in the lore, which is armor piercing, it's got frost attacks, it's got terror, scaly skin, it's very fast too. 75 speed is actually something that I wasn't really expecting on this creature, but it moves around the battlefield quite well. It does a lot of damage for what it does, and it does provide you with a mid-tier monster. This can be Doomstack, so if you are one of those types of people who like having 19 Ice Bears, well now you can also have 19 Frost Wyrms too. The creature itself can be found in Tier 3, which is in the same building chain as your Battle Kitties, your Ice Bears, and your Bear Riders, so you'll be running them fairly quickly into your campaign. I actually think that they're a bit too strong to be Tier 3, but yeah, they're perfectly fine for what they are. Creative Assembly, don't nerf, please, because you need a win, and we also just want to play around with the good toys. Yeah. Very happy. That's not all that you're going to be seeing of these big boys, however, as they are also, interestingly enough, mount options too. I was also surprised about this. This is the thing, when it comes to KISLEV, which has so drastically changed, we don't know exactly what's happening. But yeah, Katarin can mount upon it, and so can the Ice Witch Lords. Not the heroes, but the Lords. This gives you a nice big monster to be able to move around with, and again, cool. It actually looks really, really interesting. It's a bit of a shame that the saddle for Katarin wasn't that unique, but yeah. Either way, we've got something even cooler for Katarin though, which is the big boy. The thing that all of us have been asking for KISLEV for literally years now. The Ice Sled is here, and it is absolutely massive. The Ice Sled itself is free, so it's not attached to Shadows of Change, and yeah, 6 horses, really fast. It punches through enemy lines quite well. You've got 2 Ice Guard there too, so she's also got some range attacks coming in, which make her even better. I love the design. I'm a big fan of this. It's everything I could have always imagined for Katarin's Ice Sled, because as you know, this is something that was attached to the lore for a long time, but never had an official showcase from Games Workshop. It punches through enemy lines like nobody's business, literally just, it doesn't really slow down. I'm actually really surprised by this. I was able to, as you can see on screen, punch through one, go in through another unit, go in through another unit. Obviously it'll slow down if it has to deal with something larger like a cavalry piece or a monster, but through infantry troops, no problems whatsoever. This is likely one of the best chariots that I've seen in Total War Warhammer so far, as not a lot slows it down. The fact that you've got this, the shooting, and also you've got Katarin mounted atop it, which means a bunch of spells are going out, it is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So Katarin now has access to 4 mounts. She's got the Warhorse, the Warbear, the Frost Wyrm, and finally the Sled at level 21. It does take a while to get there, but it is possibly the best mount that she can have. The KISLEV updates have probably been the most surprising for me, as, yeah, honestly, they were needed. When it comes to custom battles, it's a bit different, because obviously that's when you get the whole issue of money cap and so on, and it's kind of brutal, especially as some of the monsters and some of the characters can be quite expensive. But when it comes to campaign, yeah, really, really good. The fact is, those KISLEVite warriors will last throughout the whole campaign, depending on the armies. The Frost Wyrm mount is pretty cool, and again, very doomstackable, especially if you take an Ice Witch Lord. It's something that I was pleasantly surprised with. I was expecting them to be a little bit less useful. The Druzina is probably the best generic lord that you can get access to. While Lords of Magic are usually the best, it does take a while to be able to get the Ice Witches up and running, because it's the whole Hogwarts situation. So if you need a lord and it's between the Boyar and the Druzina, Generally, I think people are going to start going for the Druzina. And finally getting the Lore of Hags and it being relatively useful, actually very, very useful, was surprising. I wasn't expecting a lot of extra effects. I was expecting, you know, one spell having one effect, not everything being kind of like a hybrid spell. I guess I should have expected that considering how KISLEV has been implemented, but yeah, very, very keen. Overall, I think that this has been something very good for KISLEV, again showing what standard we should be expecting factions to get additions to in future DLCs and Thrones of Decay and so on. KISLEV was just one of those factions that I was really avoiding playing because it just didn't feel too good. Mother Ostenkia herself was too overpowered, and the theming was lost because Boyars just don't fit with her, Druzinas fit perfectly fine with her. This is how the faction should have been originally at 4.2. I mean, it's going to be the case for both Cafe and Tzeentch also, but yeah, I feel like this is much, much better. This is more value for money and adding in stuff that was actually needed. The addition of a tier 1 troop might not be the most exciting to people, but sometimes it doesn't always have to be about big monsters. In fairness, what would have made this better, at least for KISLEV, is if they would have added in 2 more variants of KISLEVite warriors, one with a hand weapon and shield and one with a bow, just to have some bog standard archers and bog standard swordsmen. But I can kind of see why they're not doing that, because it would take away from the fantasy of it being a hybrid race. I imagine that it would have been difficult to deal with Games Workshop to come up with a bog standard trooper when the rest of the army is mostly hybrid. But yeah, overall I'm a lot more keen on KISLEV, and this is going to be the faction I'm likely going to be streaming today, because yeah, finally, you know, Tzeentch has always been fine. Even the basic additions in Shadows of Change really only fixed up Kairos' issues, which were big issues to be honest. The Changeling was already going to be strong enough as it is, and Cafe was fine with the 4.2 stuff. Well, the original stuff. 4.2 just adds extra strength to Cafe. KISLEV needed this extra strength more than anyone else. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. I'll let the rest of the video play out. You can tell that this specific battle I was recording at 4 AM because I was absolutely shattered and making a lot of silly mistakes. And I'll see you all again very, very soon. There's a lot of videos to come today. Feels good to be talking about Total War again, actually. So this should be nice. See you all again soon, guys.
Motherland's finest! In KISLEV's name! They die!
We fight for Ursan!
SRINIVASAN! Lancers!